You're probably wondering who I am and why I'm standing here today. My name is Gary Christensen, but for the past 44 years, I've been more commonly known as Pastor Gary. In 1981, I moved to Peachtree Corners to develop a new congregation which became known as Christ the King Lutheran Church. And at the very same time, Vicar Joel Hudson was serving Christ Episcopal Parish. My wife Nancy is also a retired Lutheran pastor. In 1999, she planted a new church, Epiphany Lutheran, in Suwanee, Georgia, just off Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. Nancy completed her parish ministry career at the end of 2022 when she left St. John's Lutheran Church, one of the oldest churches in Atlanta. For the past several months, Nancy and I have been searching for a new church home, and we like what we found at Christ Church. Mackenzie was the very first person to warmly welcome us. She even offered to get us name tags. And Nancy and I enjoy little Frankie's explorations and verbal outbursts when things get a little slow in worship. Keep your eyes on that kid. He could very well be a priest in the making. We've also been impressed with your music ministry, your choir and handbells, your community outreach, and your shared ministry with a Hispanic congregation. We've also been impressed with the diversity of both age and ethnics represented here at the church. And the preaching here is top notch. Mother Liz, your interim priest, is going to be a very hard act to follow. So why am I standing here before you today? Well, it seems that Ed Hurley volunteered me to serve on the stewardship team. Thank you, Ed. Ed and Lois were former members of Christ the King. And like a good committee chair, Brooke quickly followed up on Ed's suggestion. So here I am to present a brief overview of our 2024 stewardship campaign. The theme of our campaign, as you see in the banner, is rooted in abundance. The theme is borrowed from the prophet Jeremiah, who reminds God's chosen people that our God is a God of overwhelming and generous abundance, not scarcity. I believe that God never asks us to do anything as a church that God does not first provide all the people and money resources that we need to do what God is calling us to do. Over the next 4 weeks, we will learn more about God's abundant gifts through temple talks, bulletin inserts and banners, digital announcements, and special mailings. We will be challenged to increase our financial support of this vital church as we continue our own proportionate and sacrificial giving with the biblical mandate of the measure of the tithe, a 10% gift, as the goal of maturing stewardship. And then on Commitment Sunday, November 12th, we will each have the opportunity to pledge our financial support to increase our programs of education and music, our support of Rainbow Village and the thrift store and neighborhood co-op. With more time and more money, we can do even more ministry and community outreach. To celebrate our faithful and generous giving, the stewardship team will provide a thank you lunch after the 10:30 service and a brunch following the 8 o'clock service. Rooted in the abundance of God's gracious gifts, we are bold to return to God what God has first given us, ourselves, our time, and our possessions, the signs of God's gracious love. Over the next few weeks, as you prayerfully consider your financial commitments, I encourage you to remember that our God loves a cheerful, generous, and grateful giver. And I also figured out this morning that the guy that showed up to the party and got kicked out, that was because he refused to turn in a pledge.